Woman, sharp whisper. Stop moving. Your heart's about to explode. Man, breathing ragged. Get your hands off me. Woman, I'm a nurse. This is literally my job. Man, voice cracking. You don't get it. For 3 years. 3 fucking years. I've been dead inside. Heavy breathing. Man. One touch. That's all it took. And now my body thinks you're the only thing keeping it alive. Woman, quieter. That's not medically possible. Man. Then explain why I can feel my heartbeat for the first time since they poisoned me. Sudden gunshot. Glass explodes. Man, cold, flat. Get down, now. Phone rings. Unknown voice, distorted. Voice, happy birthday, Chairman CO. Consider this a warning. Next time we won't miss. Dial tone, silence. Woman, shaking. What the hell did I just walk into? Man, hell, you walked into hell, and now you can't leave. Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Afro-Korean Story Vault, the hub of great stories. Subscribe now, because in 60 seconds, everything changes. The champagne glass shattered against marble before anyone heard the shot. SEO Tae-jin didn't flinch. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, watching the city lights bleed into the Han River below, while his security team swarmed the room like ants whose hill had just been kicked. Someone was shouting coordinates. Another was on the phone with the police commissioner, though everyone in the room knew the police wouldn't do a damn thing. Not to him. Not for him. Tae-jin lifted his hand and examined the tiny cut on his palm where a shard of glass had nicked him. Blood welled up, dark and slow. He felt nothing. Not the sting. Not the adrenaline. Not even the basic human instinct to move away from danger. Just emptiness. Chairman. His head of security, a bull of a man named Kang, appeared at his elbow. We need to move you to the safe room. No. Sir, with respect. I said no. Tae-jin's voice was flat, mechanical. He turned from the window and walked through the chaos like a ghost passing through walls. His guests, syndicate leaders, politicians, men who traded in blood and favors, watched him with the kind of reverence reserved for the dead. Or the dying. He was 34 years old, and already a legend. The Iron Ghost of Hanul City. The man who survived 3 assassination attempts, 2 gang wars, and a government crackdown that should have buried him. The man who built an empire on fear and precision. The man who, 3 years ago, stopped being human. Kang followed him into the private study, closing the door against the noise. The shot came from the building across the street. Professional. High caliber. If you'd been standing 2 inches to the left... I wasn't. That's not the point. Tae-jin poured himself a drink. Whiskey, 20 years old, smooth enough to kill a man's liver in comfort. He didn't taste it. Hadn't tasted anything in years. He drank because the motion was familiar. Because it gave his hands something to do. They left a phone at the scene, Kang said quietly. Prepaid. 1 message. Tae-jin waited. Kang pulled out his own phone, played the audio. Happy birthday, Chairman CO. This was only a warning. The voice was distorted, digital. Could have been anyone. Probably was someone he'd already killed twice over in his mind. Your cousin's been making moves, Kang continued. SEO Min-kyu met with the Park family last week. The Choi's 2 days ago. He's consolidating. Tae-jin set down his glass. Let him. Sir. I'm tired, Kang. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Kang's expression shifted, just barely. Concern. Pity. Tae-jin hated both. The elders are asking about an heir again, Kang said after a moment. They want succession secured by the end of the year, or they're moving power to Min-kyu's line. Then they'll move it. You don't mean that? Tae-jin looked at him. Really looked. Kang had been with him for 12 years, Saved his life 4 times. Probably the closest thing he had to a friend, which was a pathetic statement about both their lives. I don't feel anything anymore, Taijin said simply. Not anger, not fear, not the high of winning or the burn of losing. I'm a dead man walking, Kang. Maybe it's time everyone else figured that out. Kang's jaw tightened. The poisoning destroyed me. We both know it. 3 years ago, a rival family had slipped something into his food at a peace negotiation. Something rare, something engineered. It didn't kill him, but it did something worse. It severed the connections in his brain that produced emotion, that regulated desire, that made him feel like anything other than a machine. The doctors said it was permanent. No cure, no treatment, just existence. You should rest, Kang said finally. I'll double security. No one gets close. Fine. Kang hesitated at the door. Mrs. Lim is in the hospital. Pneumonia. She'll be out for at least 2 weeks. Mrs. Lim, his housekeeper, the old woman who actually gave a damn whether he ate or slept. Send flowers. I already did. But you'll need someone to manage the penthouse. I've arranged for a private nurse to check on you daily. Professional. Vetted. Starts tomorrow morning. Tae-jin waved him off. Whatever. When the door closed, he stood alone in the study, surrounded by books he didn't read and art he didn't see. Outside, the party had died. His birthday? 34 years of life, 3 of them spent as a walking corpse. He wondered distantly if the shooter had done him a favor by missing. Halfway across the city, in a cramped studio apartment that smelled like instant noodles and lavender soap, Zainab Okori was seriously reconsidering every choice she'd made in the last 6 months. Her phone buzzed for the 3rd time. Same number, same agency. She ignored it and kept packing. The apartment was barely furnished. A mattress on the floor, 2 suitcases, a mini fridge that rattled like it had tuberculosis. She'd arrived in Seoul 8 weeks ago with a plan. New country, new life, new her. No more playing it safe. No more bending herself into shapes for men who wouldn't even bend to kiss her goodnight. Her ex-fiancé's voice still echoed in her head sometimes, usually when she was tired. You care more about saving strangers than building a life with me, Z. I can't compete with your hero complex. She'd called off the wedding 3 days before flying out. Best decision she'd ever made, even if it felt like swallowing glass. The phone buzzed again. She sighed and answered. This is Z. Miss Okori, thank God. This is Park Soo-min from Golden Care Agency. I've been trying to reach you. I know, I've been busy. I have an urgent placement. Very high priority. The pay is triple our standard rate. Z paused mid-fold on a sweater. Triple? Yes. Private client. Needs daily check-ins and basic care management. Very straightforward. What's the catch? A beat of silence. The client is high profile. There are NDAs involved. Security clearances. High profile how? I can't disclose that over the phone, but I can tell you the contract is for 3 months minimum, with possible extension. Housing stipend included, and the client specifically requested someone with your background. Z frowned. My background? European training, trauma experience, and another pause. Someone without local ties. Red flag. Giant, waving, neon red flag. I don't know, Z said slowly. I just finished a rotation at the clinic. I was planning to take a few days. 50 million won per month. Z's brain stuttered. That was more money than she'd made in the last year combined. That was pay off student loans and have enough left for a real apartment money. Who is this person? She asked. I'll send a car tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. If you accept after the initial meeting, we'll proceed. If not, you walk away with a consultation fee. No pressure. That's literally all pressure. Please, Miss Okori. The client is He's in a difficult position, and frankly, you're the only candidate who fits the profile. Z closed her eyes, her mother's voice, warm and steady. When God opens a door, baby girl, you walk through it, even if you're scared. Fine, she heard herself say. 6 a.m., but I'm not signing anything until I know what I'm walking into. Understood. Thank you. You won't regret this. The line went dead. Z stared at her phone, then at her half-packed suitcase, then at the ceiling where a water stain had started to look like a very judgmental face. I'm definitely going to regret this, she muttered. The car that arrived at 5:58 a.m. was not a car. It was a monument to excess, a black Mercedes with windows so tinted they looked like portals to another dimension. The driver, a man in a suit that probably cost more than her rent, didn't speak. Just opened the door and waited. Z climbed in, clutching her medical bag like a shield. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the crowded streets of her neighborhood for the kind of area where buildings didn't have numbers, just names. Where trees were manicured and streets were silent. Old money. Dangerous money. The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a tower of glass and steel. Top floor, the driver said. His first and only words. The elevator ride took 30 seconds and felt like 30 years. Z's reflection stared back at her from the polished walls. Dark skin, tired eyes, braids pulled into a neat bun. She looked professional, competent. Definitely not like someone about to walk into the lion's den. The doors opened onto a penthouse that could have been featured in Architectural Digest's Soulless Perfection edition. Everything was white, black, or gray. Sharp lines, cold surfaces, the kind of space that made you feel like you were intruding just by breathing. A man in a dark suit, too big to be anything but security, waited by the elevator. Miss Okari, I'm Kang Minho, head of security. Follow me. He led her through the penthouse, past floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the entire city like a painting, past furniture that looked like it had never been sat on, past art that was probably worth more than her entire bloodline combined. They stopped outside a closed door. The chairman is inside, Kang said. A few things before you enter. 1. No personal questions. 2. No physical contact unless medically necessary. 3. What you see and hear here stays here. Understood? Chairman? Z repeated. Kang's expression didn't change. Yes. Chairman of what? That's a personal question. Z bit back about 6 different responses and settled on. Fine. Kang opened the door. The room was dark. Heavy curtains blocked the morning light. It took Z's eyes a moment to adjust, and when they did, she saw him. Seo Taijin sat in a leather chair by the window, perfectly still. He was younger than she expected, mid-30s maybe, with the kind of face that would have been beautiful if it weren't so empty. Sharp jawline, dark eyes, hair that fell just wrong enough to look intentional. He didn't look at her. This is the nurse? His voice was flat, bored. Yes, sir. Miss Okori comes highly recommended. I don't care. Taejin finally glanced up. His gaze passed over Z like she was furniture. Can you take vitals and keep your mouth shut? Z's jaw tightened. Yes. Good. Do it and leave. Kang cleared his throat. Sir, the agency requires a full evaluation before... I don't care what the agency requires. Z set down her bag with more force than necessary. Well, I care. So unless you want to waste everyone's time and money, sit still and let me do my job. The room went silent. Kang looked like he'd just witnessed someone slap a tiger. Taejin's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Or annoyance. Hard to tell. You always talk to clients like that? He asked. Only the rude ones. A pause. Then impossibly the corner of his mouth twitched. Not a smile, but close. Fine. Get it over with. Z approached him, pulling out her equipment. Blood pressure cuff, stethoscope, thermometer. Standard stuff. She worked efficiently, professionally, trying to ignore the fact that his presence felt like standing next to a black hole. Something dense and dark and wrong. Arm, she said. He extended his left arm. She wrapped the cuff around his bicep, her fingers brushing his wrist as she adjusted the placement. The reaction was immediate. Taejin gasped, a sharp, shocked intake of breath. His entire body went rigid. The muscles in his arm flexed involuntarily under her touch. Z jerked back. Are you... Don't. His voice was strangled. Don't touch me. I'm a nurse. I have to... You don't understand. He was breathing hard now, staring at his own arm like it had betrayed him. For 3 years. I've felt nothing. Z's heart kicked into high gear. Medical emergency. Had to be. Sir, I need you to tell me what you're feeling. Pain, numbness, tingling. He looked up at her, and for the first time his eyes were alive. Terrified. Everything, he whispered. I'm feeling everything. Before Z could respond, before she could even process what that meant, the window behind them exploded. Glass shattered inward. Z hit the ground on instinct, her medical training overriding her panic. Taejin didn't move. Kang was suddenly there, a gun in his hand, shouting into a radio. And through it all, Z heard the phone on the desk ring. Kang grabbed it, listened, his face going pale. It's for you, sir, he said quietly. They say happy birthday. They say this was only a warning. Taejin finally moved. He stood, brushed glass off his shoulder like it was dust, and walked to the shattered window. The wind whipped through the penthouse, cold and merciless. Tell them I got the message, he said. Then he turned back to Z, still on the floor, still trying to understand what the hell just happened. You're hired, he said. Double the rate. You start now. What? You heard me. His gaze pinned her in place. Whatever just happened when you touched me, I need to know if it happens again. Z's mouth went dry. Sir, I think you need a doctor, not a nurse. I've seen every doctor in this country. None of them could help. He took a step closer, and Z could see it now, the desperation beneath the ice. You're different. You did something. I need to know what. I didn't do anything. Then we'll figure it out together. He glanced at Kang. Drop the contract. Triple rate. She lives here. 24-hour access. Sir, that's highly irregular. Do it. Kang nodded and left. Z scrambled to her feet, pulse hammering. I didn't agree to this. You will. Taejin walked past her, back to his chair. Because you're curious now. You felt it too, whatever just happened, and you want to know why. He was right. Damn him, he was right. Fine, Z said, but we establish boundaries, professional ones, and you tell me the truth. All of it. Deal. She picked up her bag with shaking hands. What happened to you? 3 years ago? Taejin was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. I was poisoned. Something experimental. Destroyed the part of my brain that processes emotion, physical sensation, desire. I've been numb ever since, dead inside. And just now, for the first time in 3 years, I felt my heart beat. I felt my skin burn. He trailed off, shaking his head. Everything came back at once. Because of you. Z's medical mind raced. Neurological damage, hormone disruption. But spontaneous recovery triggered by physical contact? That wasn't in any textbook she'd ever read. This isn't normal, she said. Nothing about my life is normal. Fair point. I'll need to run tests, blood work, MRI, full neurological eval. Whatever you need. Z nodded slowly, her mind already 3 steps ahead. This was insane. Dangerous. Possibly illegal depending on who this man actually was. But it was also the most interesting case she'd ever seen. One more thing, she said. If I'm staying here, I need to know what I'm walking into. Who are you? Really? Tae-jin looked at her with those dead eyes that had just started coming back to life. I'm the monster your mother warned you about, he said simply. And now you're the only thing that makes me feel human. Z didn't sleep that first night. She was given a room, guest suite technically, but it was bigger than her entire apartment, and told to settle in. Kang brought her bags from her place. Someone else, a quiet woman who introduced herself as Min Seo, explained the house rules. No wandering at night, no leaving without security, no phones in certain areas. It felt less like a job and more like voluntary imprisonment. She lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. The look on his face when she'd touched him. The genuine shock. Fear. Like a man who'd forgotten what it meant to be alive and suddenly remembered. Her phone buzzed. Text from her best friend back home. How's Korea? Met any cute guys yet? Z typed. Define cute. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. You know, tall, handsome, emotionally available. Yeah, no. Found the opposite of that, actually. Story time? Later. Still processing. She set down the phone and closed her eyes. Tried to sleep. Couldn't. Around 3 a.m., she heard footsteps in the hall. Slow, measured. She recognized the weight of them somehow. Tae-jin. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Silence. Then they moved on. Z exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Morning came too fast. She found Tae-jin in the main living area, standing by the window again. He seemed drawn to them, to the view of the city spread out below like conquered territory. You're up early, he said without turning. Couldn't sleep. Neither could I. He glanced at her. I haven't slept properly in 3 years. Too afraid I'll wake up and realize I've forgotten how. Z approached slowly, keeping distance. I need to examine you properly. In daylight. With equipment. Fine. And you need to answer my questions. All of them. I'll try. She gestured to the couch. Sit. He obeyed. It was strange seeing a man who commanded such presence move at her direction. But there was something in his eyes. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. Z pulled out her supplies. Tell me about the poison. What exactly happened? 3 years ago, I attended a meeting with a rival organization. Peace talks. Someone slipped something into my drink. By the time I realized, it was too late. What were the immediate symptoms? Seizures, hallucinations, then nothing. Just silence. His jaw tightened. The doctors said it attacked my limbic system, severed connections. They gave me 6 months to live, said the damage would spread. But it didn't. No, I stabilized. But everything that made me human was gone. I could think clearly, make decisions, run my business. But I couldn't feel joy or sorrow, couldn't taste food, couldn't feel pain or pleasure, just existed. Z processed this as she checked his pupils. Reaction normal. Have you tried treatment? Everything. Western medicine, traditional remedies, experimental therapies. Nothing worked. Until yesterday. Until you. She pulled back, meeting his gaze. I didn't do anything special. I just touched your wrist. Maybe that's all it took. That's not how neurology works. Then explain it to me. Because for 3 years, doctors have told me I'm broken beyond repair. And then you walk into my life, and suddenly I can feel my heartbeat again. Z had no answer for that. Let's try something, she said. Controlled exposure. I'm going to touch your wrist again. Tell me exactly what you feel. Tae-jin nodded, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. The fear. She reached out slowly. Her fingers hovered over his skin. Ready? She asked. No. Do it anyway. She pressed her fingers to his pulse point. The effect was instantaneous. His breath caught. His eyes widened. Every muscle in his body went taut. Talk to me, Z said, keeping her voice steady even as her own pulse raced. What do you feel? Heat, he managed. Where you're touching, it's spreading. Up my arm, into my chest. Pain. No, not pain, it's... He struggled for words. It's overwhelming, like every nerve is waking up at once. I can feel my heart. I can feel the blood moving. I can feel... He stopped abruptly, his other hand gripping the couch cushion. You need to stop. Why? Because if you don't, I'm going to... He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Z removed her hand. Tae-jin slumped back, breathing hard, a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. That was 30 seconds, Z said quietly. You couldn't handle 30 seconds. 3 years of nothing, he said roughly. Then you. It's like going from sensory deprivation to full immersion in seconds. My brain doesn't know how to process it. Z made notes on her tablet. We need to build tolerance, gradual exposure, like physical therapy, but for your nervous system. You think it's possible? I think something is happening. Whether it's recovery or something else, I don't know. But if there's a chance... She looked at him. We have to be smart about this. Scientific. No rushing. Agreed. And you have to be honest with me. About everything. Your condition, your life, your enemies. Because I can't help you if I don't understand what we're dealing with. Tae-jin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I'm a crime lord, he said bluntly. Not a businessman, not a CEO. I run one of the largest criminal organizations in Seoul. Drugs, weapons, money laundering. If it's illegal and profitable, my organization touches it. Z's stomach dropped. And you're telling me this why? Because you asked for honesty. And because if you're going to be here, you need to know what you're walking into. There are people who want me dead. Yesterday's attack won't be the last. Then why am I here? Why risk bringing someone in? Because I don't care about dying anymore. The admission was stark, hollow. But this, what happened yesterday, for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than emptiness. And I'm selfish enough to chase that, even if it puts you in danger. Z should have walked out, should have called the agency, grabbed her stuff, and run. This was insane. Dangerous. Everything her rational mind screamed at her to avoid. But she looked at him, really looked, and saw something that made her pause. A man who'd forgotten how to be human, clinging to the first spark of life he'd felt in years. And she thought about her ex-fiancé's words, about her hero complex, about how she always chose to save people, even when it cost her. I'll stay, she heard herself say, but on my terms. You want to feel human again? Then you start acting like one. No more standing in front of windows during assassination attempts. No more treating your life like it's disposable. Why do you care? Because I'm a nurse. It's literally my job to care. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Okay, he said. Teach me how to be human again. The next few days established a routine. Morning vitals, controlled exposure therapy, Z touching his wrist, his hand, his arm, for gradually increasing intervals. Afternoons were for tests, research, trying to understand what was happening. Evenings, Tae-jin would disappear into his office for business. Z tried very hard not to think about. She learned things about him. Small things. He liked his coffee black. He read philosophy but never fiction. He played piano sometimes, late at night, though he claimed he couldn't feel the music anymore. She also learned about the world he lived in. Kang gave her a security briefing that felt more like a horror movie synopsis. The rival families, the corrupt politicians, the delicate balance of power that kept Taijin's empire standing. "You're frowning," Taijin said on the fourth day, during their afternoon session. They were in his study. She was checking his heart rate after a 5-minute exposure, the longest he'd managed without nearly passing out. "Just thinking." About? About how none of this makes sense. Medically, I mean. She pulled back, noting his vitals. "Your condition should be permanent. Poison-induced brain damage doesn't just reverse itself. Maybe it didn't reverse. Maybe you're the trigger for something else." "Like what?" "I don't know. Psychological? Neurological? Maybe my brain just needed the right stimulus to reconnect." "That's not how brains work," says the nurse who makes me feel alive by touching my wrist. "Fair point." Z leaned back, in her chair, studying him. He looked better than when she'd arrived. Less like a ghost, more like a person. His eyes had started to carry expression again. Small changes, but significant. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "You're literally paid to touch me. I think we're past boundaries." "Fair. Why me?" "Kang said you requested someone without local ties. Someone with my specific background." "Why?" Taijin was quiet. Then, "Because I didn't want someone who already knew what I was. I wanted someone who would see me as a patient first, a monster second." "I don't see you as a monster." "You should." "Maybe. But I don't." She met his gaze. "I see someone who's been hurt, who's trying to survive. That's not monstrous. That's human." He looked away. "You're too kind for this world." "I'm a realist. There's a difference." A knock at the door. Kang entered, his expression tense. "Sir, we have a problem." Taejin's demeanor shifted instantly. Back to ice. "What kind?" "Min-kyu has called a meeting with the council. He's challenging your leadership. Claims you're unfit to rule." "Let him." "Sir, if you don't attend, he wins by default." "Then he wins." Z stood. "Wait, what does that mean, if he wins?" Kang looked uncomfortable. "It means power transfers to Min-kyu's family line. The organization restructures. And I'm no longer protected," Taejin finished. "Without my position, every enemy I've made has free reign." "That's suicide," Z said. "I told you. I don't care about dying." "Well, I care." The words burst out before she could stop them. "You don't get to give up now. Not when we're making progress. Not when—" She stopped, realizing what she was saying. Taejin stared at her. "Not when what?" "Not when you're finally feeling again," she said quietly. "You wanted to be human. Humans fight. They don't just roll over." Silence stretched between them. "She's right, sir," Kang said. "If you don't fight, everything you've built falls apart." Taejin looked between them. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Fine. Schedule the meeting. Tell Min-kyu I'll be there." Kang left. Z waited until they were alone. "Why did you change your mind?" Taijin didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, his default refuge, and stared out at the city. "Because you're right," he said finally. "Humans fight, and you reminded my body what it lost." He turned to face her. "Maybe it's time you reminded my mind too." Something in Z's chest tightened. This was dangerous territory, not just medically. Emotionally. "We should continue the exposure therapy," she said, forcing professionalism back into her voice. "If you're going into a hostile situation, you need to be stable." Agreed. They worked for another hour. By the end, Taejin could handle 10 minutes of continuous contact without his system overloading. Progress, but not enough. That night, Z couldn't sleep again. She found herself wandering the penthouse, drawn by the sound of piano music. It was coming from the east wing, a room she hadn't been to yet. She followed the sound. Tae-jin sat at a grand piano, his fingers moving over the keys with mechanical precision. The music was technically perfect, and completely lifeless. He stopped when he saw her. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Apparently not." She approached slowly. "What were you playing?" "Debussy, Clair de Lune." "It's beautiful. It's empty." He touched the keys again, not quite pressing down. "I remember how it's supposed to sound, how it's supposed to feel, but I can't access that anymore. It's like reading about color when you're blind." Z sat beside him on the bench, close, but not touching. "Play it again," she said. "What's the point?" "Just play." He did. The same piece. The same perfect hollow execution. When he finished, Z reached over and placed her hand on his, palm to palm, fingers interlaced. "Now play," she whispered. Tae-jin's breath caught, but he didn't pull away. Instead, with her hand on his, he started the piece again. This time it was different. The notes trembled. His rhythm faltered. But there was something in it now. Something raw and desperate and alive. It wasn't perfect anymore. It was human. They sat like that, his hands moving beneath hers, the music filling the space between them. And for just a moment, Z forgot about danger and professionalism and all the very good reasons this was a terrible idea. She just felt. When the last note faded, Tae-jin turned to her. They were close now. Close enough that she could see the way his pupils had dilated, the way his breathing had changed. "Z," he said, and his voice was rough. "What are you doing to me?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I don't think I'm healing you. I think I'm just waking you up. It hurts. I know. But I don't want it to stop." Neither did she. God help her, neither did she. The moment hung suspended. Then footsteps echoed in the hall. They pulled apart just as Kang appeared in the doorway. "Sir, we have a situation." The spell broke. Tae-jin stood, back to business mode. "What is it?" "Surveillance picked up suspicious activity near the building. 3 vehicles, unknown occupants." "Min-kyu?" "We think so." Z's heart kicked into overdrive. "What does that mean?" "It means he's watching," Tae-jin said, "trying to find leverage." Kang's gaze flicked between them, and Z saw the realization dawn in his eyes. He'd figured it out. The connection between her and Tae-jin. "Sir," Kang said carefully, "if Min-kyu discovers Miss Okori's significance, he won't. He has eyes everywhere. Then we make sure he sees nothing." But even as he said it, Z knew it was too late. Whatever was happening between them, it wasn't invisible anymore. And in Tae-jin's world, that made her a target. The council meeting was set for the next evening. Z spent the day preparing. She drilled Tae-jin on exposure therapy, pushing his tolerance higher. By late afternoon, he could handle sustained contact for nearly 20 minutes without his system going haywire. "That's good," she said, checking his vitals. "But you need to be ready for stress triggers. If something happens at the meeting, I'll be fine. You don't know that." He caught her wrist, gentle but firm. "Z, I'll be fine, because I know you'll be here when I get back." The words landed harder than they should have. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "Promise?" She shouldn't promise anything. Not in this world. Not with a man like him. But looking into his eyes that were finally learning to feel again, she found herself nodding. "Promise," she whispered. He released her wrist, his fingers trailing across her skin in a way that made every nerve ending wake up. Not just for him, for her too. I should go, he said, though he didn't move. Kang wants to review security protocols. And you should eat something. When's the last time you had a real meal? Does coffee count? No? Then I don't remember. Z sighed and stood. I'm making you food. Real food. And you're going to sit there and eat it. Bossy. Protective. There's a difference. Something flickered across his face. Warmth, maybe. Or surprise that anyone would care enough to be protective of him. She found the kitchen, massive, sterile, barely used, and started pulling ingredients. Minseo appeared like a ghost, offering to help, but Z waved her off. She needed to do this herself, needed the familiar rhythm of cooking to settle her racing thoughts. 20 minutes later, she carried a tray back to the study. Simple food, grilled fish, rice, vegetables. Nothing fancy, but made with care. Taejin looked up from his laptop. You didn't have to. Eat. He ate, slowly at first, like someone relearning the concept. Then faster. She watched him process each bite, seeing the way his expression shifted. Still muted, still learning. But there. Can you taste it? She asked. Barely. It's like echoes of flavor. Shadows. But you can taste something. Yes. He set down his chopsticks. More every day. That's progress. Because of you. Because your brain is healing. I'm just the catalyst. You're more than that. His gaze held hers. You know you are. The air between them felt charged. Dangerous. Z broke eye contact first. You should finish eating. You'll need your strength tonight. He didn't argue. By 7 p.m., Taejin was dressed for war. Black suit, perfectly tailored, hair swept back. He looked every inch the crime lord. Cold, controlled, untouchable. But Z knew better now. She knew what he looked like when his control slipped, when he felt too much and couldn't contain it. Ready? Kang asked from the doorway. Yes. Taejin turned to Z. For a moment, the mask slipped. She saw the fear underneath. Not of the meeting. Of losing what he'd just started to regain. I'll be here, she said quietly. He nodded, then left. The penthouse felt massive and empty without him. Z tried to distract herself. Reviewed notes. Researched neurological case studies. Sent messages to colleagues back home. Carefully worded to avoid revealing where she was or who she was treating. Hours passed. 9 p.m. 10. 11. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. He's lying to you. Her blood went cold. She stared at the message, then typed, Who is this? 3 dots appeared. Someone who knows what Seo Taijin really is. What he's done. The people he's destroyed. I'm his nurse. I know what he is. Do you? Ask him about the Park family. Ask him about the fire. The dots disappeared. Z's hands shook. She should tell Kang. Should report this. But something stopped her. She needed to hear it from Taejin first. He returned just after midnight. She heard the elevator. The low voices. Kang giving orders. Then silence. She found Taejin in his study. Tie loosened. Jacket discarded. He looked exhausted. How did it go? She asked. I retained power. Barely. He poured himself a drink. Min-kyu challenged my fitness. Said I was unstable. Weak. What did you say? That weakness is thinking power matters more than survival. That I've survived 3 assassination attempts and a poison that should have killed me. That makes me stronger than any of them. Did they believe you? Enough of them. He drank, then set down the glass. But it's temporary. Min-kyu won't stop. He'll keep pushing until he finds a weakness he can exploit. Z thought about the text message. About the warning. Taejin, she said carefully. Someone texted me tonight. His expression darkened. Who? I don't know. They said you were lying to me. That I should ask about the Park family. About a fire. The silence that followed was deafening. What happened? Z pressed. Taejin didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, always the window, and stood there, shoulders rigid. 7 years ago, he finally said, the Park family tried to move in on my territory. They were violent, reckless. Civilian casualties didn't matter to them. He paused. They killed people I cared about, my mentor, his daughter, burned down a community center to send a message. Z's stomach twisted. And you retaliated. I destroyed them, systematically. Their businesses, their connections, their protection. Another pause, heavier. There was a fire. At their compound. 16 people died. Did you start it? No. But I knew it was going to happen. I could have stopped it, and I didn't. He turned to face her, and his expression was raw. Honest. I wanted them to burn. I wanted them to feel what they'd made others feel. And when it was over, I felt nothing. No guilt. No remorse. Just empty. Because of the poison? The poison came later, but maybe I was already dead inside long before that. Maybe the poison just finished what this life started. Z processed this. The violence, the death, the darkness of the world he lived in. She should be horrified, should run. But all she could think was, he wanted to feel something, even guilt, even remorse, and he couldn't. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Taejin said quietly. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm just telling you the truth, like you asked. Did any children die in the fire? No, I made sure of that. There were lines even I wouldn't cross. And now? If you could feel again, really feel, would you do it differently? He considered this. I don't know. Ask me when I remember how to feel guilt. It was an honest answer. Maybe the only honest answer he could give. Z crossed the room slowly. Stopped in front of him, close enough to touch. I'm not naive, she said. I know what you are. What you've done. But I also know what you're trying to become. And I think that matters more. You have too much faith in people. Maybe. Or maybe I just have faith in you. His breath caught. She could see the war in his eyes, the man who'd forgotten how to feel versus the one who was desperately trying to remember. You shouldn't, he said roughly. Probably not. She reached up and placed her hand against his chest, over his heart. His entire body tensed. What are you doing? He asked. Testing something. She could feel his heartbeat. Fast, strong, alive. Tell me what you feel, she said. Heat, pressure, your hand on my chest. His voice was strained, my heart beating too fast, blood rushing. I can't. Yes, you can. Just breathe. He tried. She felt the effort it took, felt the way his body wanted to overload, to shut down, to return to numbness. But he fought it. Seconds passed, then a minute. His breathing steadied. The tension in his muscles eased slightly. Better? She asked. Yes. No. I don't know. He covered her hand with his, pressing it harder against his chest. I can feel too much, like my skin is on fire, like my chest is going to explode. How do people live like this all the time? They get used to it. I don't know if I can. You don't have to get used to it tonight, just this moment. They stood like that, her hand between his chest and his palm, his heart beating against her fingers. The city stretched out behind them, endless and indifferent. Z, he said, and his voice was different now, vulnerable. I'm afraid. Of what? Of needing you. Of what happens when you leave. Of feeling this much and then losing it again. His fingers tightened on hers. For 3 years I was dead. I didn't need anything or anyone. And now? And now you're alive. And being alive means being afraid sometimes. I don't want to be afraid. No one does, but it's part of the package. He pulled her closer, his other arm sliding around her waist. They were pressed together now, no distance left between them. This is dangerous, he said. I know. If Min Q finds out what you mean to me, then we'll deal with it. You could die. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Life is risk. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of playing it safe. Something in his expression shifted, intensified. She saw the moment his control started to fracture. Saw the war between the man who didn't feel and the one who felt too much. I want to kiss you, he said roughly. I want to know if I can feel that too. Z's pulse skyrocketed. Every rational thought screamed at her to step back, to maintain boundaries, to remember this was a patient. But he wasn't just a patient anymore. Then kiss me, she whispered. He hesitated, just for a moment. Then he closed the distance. His lips met hers, uncertain at first. Testing. Learning. Then deeper. Desperate, like a drowning man breaking the surface. Z kissed him back, her free hand sliding up to his neck. She could feel his pulse there, racing. Feel the way his entire body trembled with the effort of processing sensation. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. Tell me what you felt, Z said. Everything. His voice was wrecked. Your lips, your breath, the way you taste, the way every nerve in my body just woke up at once. He pressed his forehead to hers. I felt alive, Z. For the first time in 3 years, I felt completely alive. Good, she said. Remember this. When things get hard, when you want to go numb again, remember this. How could I forget? A phone buzzed. Tae-jin's. He ignored it. It buzzed again and again. You should check that, Z said reluctantly. He pulled out his phone, read the screen, and his expression went cold. What is it? Z asked. Security alert. He was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Someone breached the lower floors. Kang's mobilizing the team. I'm coming with you. No, you stay here. Lock the door. Tae-jin, please. He cupped her face, the gesture so gentle it hurt. I just got you. I can't lose you already. Before she could argue, he was gone. Z stood alone in the study, her lips still tingling, her heart still racing. She could hear shouting now. Running footsteps, the building coming alive with alarm. She did what he asked, locked the door. Then pulled out her phone and called Kang. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. Outside the window she saw movement. Shadows against shadows. Too many of them. This wasn't just a breach. This was an invasion. The power cut 30 seconds later. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in red. Z's medical training took over. She grabbed her bag, checked the lock again, positioned herself where she could see both the door and window. Gunshots echoed from below, close, too close. Her phone buzzed, text from the unknown number. He's going to get you killed, like he killed everyone else who mattered to him. Leave now and you live. Stay and you burn. Z's fingers tightened on the phone. She should be terrified, should be planning escape routes. But all she could think was, Tae-jin's down there, fighting, possibly dying. She couldn't just hide. Against every instinct screaming at her to stay safe, Z unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway. The penthouse was chaos. Security personnel running, shouted orders. The sharp crack of gunfire. She found the stairwell, started down, made it 2 floors before someone grabbed her. Kang. What the hell are you doing? He demanded. Where is he? Main floor. And you need to be upstairs where it's safe. Is he safe? That's not your... Is he safe? Kang's expression answered before his words did. He's pinned down. North corridor. Min-Kyu brought a small army. Z's heart stopped. How many? Too many. Take me to him. Miss Okori? He needs me. When he's stressed, his system crashes. I'm the only one who can stabilize him. It was a stretch of the truth, but not a lie. Kang hesitated, then nodded. Stay behind me. Don't do anything stupid. They moved quickly, downstairs, through corridors. The sounds of fighting grew louder. Z's hands shook, but she forced them steady. They rounded a corner and she saw him. Taijin was behind an overturned table, gun in hand, blood on his shirt. 3 of his men were with him. Across the corridor, at least a dozen enemies. Covering fire! Kang shouted and opened up. Z ran. She shouldn't have. It was insane. Stupid. But her body moved before her brain could catch up. She slid behind the table next to Taijin. He stared at her like she'd materialized from thin air. What the fuck are you doing here? He shouted over the gunfire. Saving your life. You're welcome. She grabbed his wrist, checking his pulse. Racing. Irregular. Your system's overloading. You need to calm down. Calm down? We're under attack. I know. Which is why you need to breathe before your heart gives out. He looked at her. Really looked. And something in his expression cracked. You're insane. We've established that. A bullet hit the table inches from her head. Taijin pulled her down, covering her body with his. Don't move, he said. Don't die, she countered. Deal. Kang was shouting into his radio. Backup was coming. They just had to hold for 3 minutes. 3 minutes felt like eternity. Z kept her hand on Taijin's wrist, using the contact to keep him grounded. She could feel the way his body wanted to shut down, the way the stress was triggering old patterns. Look at me, she said. He did. You're not numb anymore. You can feel this. The fear, the adrenaline, all of it. That means you're alive. So stay alive, okay? Okay. The shooting intensified, then suddenly stopped. Silence. They're retreating, one of Taijin's men said. Why? Taijin demanded. Then they heard it. Sirens. Multiple units. Someone called the police, Kang said, sounding confused. Z's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. 3 minutes felt like eternity. Z kept her hand on Taijin's wrist, using the contact to keep him grounded. She could feel the way his body wanted to shut down, the way the stress was triggering old patterns. Look at me, she said. He did. You're not numb anymore. You can feel this. The fear, the adrenaline, all of it. That means you're alive, so stay alive, okay? Okay. The shooting intensified, then suddenly stopped. Silence. They're retreating, one of Taijin's men said. Why? Taijin demanded. Then they heard it. Sirens. Multiple units. Someone called the police, Kang said, sounding confused. Z's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. Text from the unknown number. I gave you a chance to leave. You didn't take it. Now you're part of this. And there's no going back. Welcome to hell, Zainab Okori. She stared at the message, ice flooding her veins. Z? Taijin touched her shoulder. What is it? She showed him the message. His expression went deadly. They know your full name. Who are they? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Police poured into the building. Kang handled them. Apparently having cops on payroll was useful. The attackers had vanished like smoke. Taijin stood, pulling Z up with him. She saw the blood on his shirt more clearly now. You're hurt, she said. It's not mine. Let me check anyway. He let her. She ran her hands over his chest, his sides, looking for wounds. Found nothing serious, just bruises and scrapes. I'm fine, he he said. You could have died. But I didn't. Because She stopped, realizing what she'd been about to say. Because you what? He pressed. Because I was here. His expression softened. He cupped her face, heedless of who was watching. You ran into a war zone for me. You would have done the same. I'm a criminal. You're a nurse. It's not the same thing. Isn't it? He didn't answer, just pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. Around them, his men cleaned up, secured the building, reported damage. But in that moment, in his arms, Z felt something shift. She wasn't just his nurse anymore. She wasn't just staying out of professional obligation. She was in this. Completely, terrifyingly in this. And there was no going back. They returned to the penthouse as dawn broke. Z's adrenaline was crashing. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Taejin guided her to the couch, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Shock, he said quietly. You're in shock. I'm fine. You're shaking. I said I'm fine. He sat beside her, close but not touching. You could have died tonight. So could you. I'm used to it. That doesn't make it okay. Silence settled between them. Outside, the city was waking up, unaware of the violence that had erupted in this building just hours ago. The message, Taejin said, about knowing your full name. That means someone did deep research, found out who you really are. My real name isn't a secret. But you use a different surname here. You tried to disappear. Someone connected the dots. Z's stomach twisted. Min-Kyu? Probably. Or someone working for him. Taejin's jaw tightened. I should send you away, somewhere safe, out of the country. No. Z. No, she repeated firmly. I'm not running. You said you wanted to feel human again. Well, humans don't run when things get hard. They fight. You're a civilian. I'm your nurse. You're whatever this is. She gestured between them. And I'm not leaving you. Even if staying gets you killed? Even then. He looked at her like she was the most frustrating, terrifying, precious thing he'd ever seen. You really are insane. You keep saying that. Because it keeps being true. Kang appeared in the doorway. Sir, we've identified the attackers. They were contracted through an intermediary, but the money trail leads back to Min-Kyu's organization. Are we certain? Certain enough. Taejin stood, his expression going cold. Then it's time to respond. What does that mean? Z asked. It means Min-Kyu crossed a line. He attacked my home. Put you in danger. Taejin looked at Kang. Call the council. Emergency session. Tomorrow night. Sir, if you move against Min-Kyu without proper... I'm not moving against him. I'm making him move against himself. After Kang left, Z stood. What are you planning? Something I should have done 3 years ago. He took her hand, gentle despite the violence still simmering beneath his surface. Trust me. I do. You shouldn't. But I do anyway. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. You make me want to be better. Then be better. Even if it hurts? Especially if it hurts. That's how you know you're doing it right. He kissed her then. Soft. Sweet. Nothing like the desperate clash from before. This kiss felt like a promise. The next day passed in tense preparation. Taejin was locked in his office with Kang and his advisors. Planning. Strategizing. Building whatever case he intended to make. Z tried to stay busy, organized medical supplies, reviewed research, avoided thinking about bullets and blood and how close they'd come to dying. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She almost didn't open it. You think he loves you, but men like him don't love. They own, they consume, they destroy. Ask him what happened to the last woman who mattered to him. Z's breath caught. She shouldn't respond, shouldn't engage. She typed anyway. Who was she? The response came immediately. Her name was Minjai. She was his mentor's daughter. He loved her. Or thought he did. The Parks killed her to get to him, and when he got his revenge, he felt nothing. Do you really think you're different? Z stared at the message, something cold settling in her chest. You look like you've seen a ghost. She jumped. Minseo stood in the doorway, carrying fresh linens. I'm fine, Z said automatically. You don't look fine. Minseo set down the linens and approached carefully. Can I tell you something? Sure. I've worked for Chairman Seo for 5 years. I've seen him go from human to ghost. And now... She smiled slightly. Now I see him becoming human again. Because of you. It's not because of me. His brain is just... It's because of you. Minseo interrupted gently. I don't know how, but you woke something in him. Something we thought was gone forever. Did you know Minjai? The question slipped out before Z could stop it. Minseo's expression shifted. Sadness, old and deep. Yes, she was kind, gentle, everything this world tried to destroy. She paused. Her death broke him, and then the poison finished what grief started. He didn't feel anything when she died. Oh, he felt it, for about 6 months. Then the poison took hold, and... Minseo shook her head. He wanted to grieve, wanted to rage, but the emotion just stopped, like a switch flipping off. Z processed this. The texts weren't lying, just presenting truth from a twisted angle. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you need to understand. What you're doing for him, bringing him back to life, it's a gift. But it's also dangerous. When he was numb, he couldn't be hurt. Now? Minseo met her eyes. Now he can be destroyed. And his enemies know it. The council meeting was held in neutral territory. An old hotel in Gangnam, renovated to serve as a meeting place for the city's criminal elite. Elegant, expensive, designed to remind everyone that civilization was a thin veneer over animal instinct. Taijin dressed carefully. Black suit. No tie. He looked like death dressed for dinner. You can't come, he told Z. I know. But you want to, anyway. Obviously. It's too dangerous. More dangerous than last night? He couldn't argue with that. Kang will stay with you. Full security detail. At the first sign of trouble, I'll hide in a closet and wait for rescue. I get it. He studied her face. You're different today. What happened? She almost told him about the texts, about Minjai. But something stopped her. Just worried, she said. About me? Always about you. He kissed her forehead. I'll be back before midnight. You better be. He left. Z watched from the window as his convoy pulled away. 6 cars, armed guards, the full display of power, and she wondered if it would be enough. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Z spent them pacing, checking her phone, trying not to imagine worst-case scenarios. At 11:47 p.m., she heard the elevator. She ran to the entrance. Taejin stood there, alive, whole, but something in his expression made her freeze. What happened? She asked. I won. He walked past her, heading for the study. Minkyu tried to present evidence of my instability. I presented evidence of his embezzlement, his unsanctioned hits, his plans to restructure the organization for personal profit. And the council voted, unanimous. Minkyu has been stripped of rank and expelled from the family. That's good, right? It should be. He poured a drink. But I don't feel victory. I don't feel satisfaction. I just feel... What? Tired. He downed the whiskey. When I was numb, I could do things like this without question. Destroy someone's life and move on. But now? He looked at her. Now I keep thinking about Minjai, about everyone I've hurt, and I don't know if I can keep doing this. Z's heart clenched. You're feeling guilt. That's good. Is it? Because it feels like drowning. She crossed to him, taking his hands. Guilt means you have a conscience, that you care about the impact of your actions. That's what makes you human. I don't know if I want to be human if this is what it feels like. Yes, you do. You're just scared. I'm terrified. The admission was raw. I'm terrified of feeling this much, of needing you this much, of what happens when what? When you realize what I really am and leave. Z cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. I know what you are. A criminal. A killer. A man who's done terrible things. But I also know what you're trying to become. And that's what matters to me. Why? Because I see you. Really see you. Not the Iron Ghost. Not the crime lord. Just you. Scared and hurt and trying to figure out how to be human again. He pulled her close, burying his face in her neck. His body shook. It took Z a moment to realize he was crying. For the first time in 3 years, Seo Taijin was crying. She held him, her own tears falling silently. This was it. The moment his walls finally crumbled. The moment he stopped fighting and just felt. I'm here, she whispered. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. Promise? Promise. They stood like that for a long time, 2 broken people holding each other together in the dark. Later, when the tears had dried and exhaustion had set in, they ended up on the couch. Z's head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. Tell me about Minjai, she said quietly. He tensed. How do you... Someone's been texting me, trying to turn me against you. What have they said? That you're dangerous, that I should leave, that you destroyed everyone who's mattered to you. They're not wrong. Tell me anyway. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, Minjai was my mentor's daughter. We grew up together. She was 3 years younger, bright, optimistic, everything I wasn't. You loved her. I thought I did. Or maybe I loved the idea of her, someone pure in a world covered in shit. He paused. The Parks took her to get to me, tortured her for information I never gave her. When they realized she couldn't help them, they killed her, burned her alive, sent me the video. Z's stomach turned. And you couldn't feel it. The grief. Not after the poison. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But it was like watching it happen to a stranger. I knew I should be devastated, knew I should be raging, but there was just nothing. That's why you destroyed the Parks. I thought maybe if I made them hurt, I'd feel something. But even watching them burn, I felt nothing. Just emptiness. And now? Now I wish I could take it all back. Now I wish I'd found another way. He looked at her. Now I feel everything I couldn't feel then, and it's killing me. Z understood now. The person texting her was right about one thing. Taejin destroyed the people he cared about. Not intentionally, but his world was built on violence, and violence consumed everything. She should leave, should run before she became the next casualty. But she thought about his tears, about the way he trembled in her arms, about a man learning to feel again in a world that punished feeling. I'm not Minjai, she said. I know. And I'm not leaving. You should. But I won't. He pulled her closer. You're going to break my heart. Maybe. Or maybe we'll break each other and put the pieces back together better than before. That's not how it works. How do you know? You've been numb for 3 years. Maybe it works differently now. He huffed a sound that might have been a laugh. Insane. We've established this. They fell silent. Outside, the city never slept. Inside, two people who shouldn't work together held on like their lives depended on it. Maybe they did. What happens next will change everything. Subscribe now to Afro-Korean Story Vault, the hub of great stories to find out if love can heal the Iron Ghost, or if it will destroy them both. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to mention your location in the comments. See you in the next video.